The Guild Expeditions is getting a pretty large update that will be adding 25 trials to the existing 30 and will be bringing changes to the rewards that include 2 new item shops and some new buildings. The first thing you will likely notice are the new Jade Currencies that you will be receiving. There are a total of 4 of these: common coins and snakes, and uncommon coyotes and statues. As you'd expect, the common currencies appear in earlier trials, while the rarer ones show up only later in the trials. The Jade Currencies take the place of the Guild Expeditions buildings, selection kits, and upgrades that used to be the guaranteed rewards for each trial, except for the Forgotten Temple and a few Fountain of Youth fragments. Those are still available. Diamonds are too, but there are some changes to those that I'll talk more about later. You'll be able to spend your Jade Currencies in the two new item shops. The common shop contains the normal and silver selection kits for Guild Expedition buildings, as well as diamonds. You will only be able to spend the common coins and snakes here. Coins for the diamonds, base buildings, and selection kits, with the snakes being used for the silver kits. In the uncommon shop, you can purchase the gold selection kits with your coyotes and the new platinum selection kits with your statues. A short side tangent about the platinum buildings: there's nothing really groundbreaking here, largely just 20 to 40% improvements over the gold versions of the buildings, making them more powerful than they already are. If you want to look more at the stats in detail, I will link the official page in the description. Now back to talking about the shops. Very importantly, make sure you spend all of your Jade Currencies every single week, especially if you're playing trials that max out the snakes, coyotes, or statues. In other words, every trial 16 and above. The maximum amounts of those currencies is the same as the cost of everything if you bought out all the options in the shop. Essentially, this means that once you max the currency out, you no longer get to choose which items you want to buy and can't really strategize getting more of a few items. Anyways, let's look at the diamonds here. Depending on how you play, it's either good news or bad news. The good news is that from Trial 4 and above, you get a guaranteed 60 diamonds every single week. Every trial now gives a guaranteed 30 diamonds on level 4 of the expeditions, and you can buy up to 30 diamonds from the common store each week for 1800 common Jade coins. And that's why Trial 4 and above is required. That's the first trial you can get more than 1800 Jade coins from. Compared to the previous trial system with some guaranteed and some random rewards, this is a slight buff. The previous average was around 58-ish diamonds per week from each trial, meaning that you get an extra 2-ish diamonds per week. Where the bad news comes into play is that those random diamonds are removed. Previously, you had a chance at getting a total of 90 diamonds from each trial. The cool part is that the trials with diamonds were the same for every server in the same time zone. This meant that you could work with other players to figure out which trials had all 90 diamonds, securing a much higher average number of diamonds per week. I actually had a system set up for that on my Discord server, and data was submitted over 3,300 times thanks to all of you, resulting in over 1,000 confirmations of trials with all 90 diamonds. It was a really cool effort, and although it's going away with this update, I wanted to say thank you. It's always nice to see what the Forge of Empires community can do when we all work together to help each other out. Back to the expeditions though, let's look at the trials themselves. Trials 1 to 30 are completely unchanged in terms of enemy army difficulties, and the 25 new ones continue increasing at an extra 400% army boost for each trial. This means that Trial 55 will see a maximum of 20,680% enemy army boosts. I do think it's important to point out here that this is still less than half of what the original trial system as it was on beta had on offer, where the maximum was 42,090% at the 25th trial. As before, once you complete a trial, you unlock the next 3 higher trials. You keep all the progress you had from the previous version, no need to start over. If you were already completing Trial 30, it will take an extra 8 weeks at a minimum to reach the new maximum at Trial 55. Why do you want to reach Trial 55? Great question. Despite all rewards basically reaching their maximums at Trial 34, other than small increases to Forge Points, goods, and units, Trial 55 will be the only trial to offer fragments of a new building, the Ancient Temple. This building is slightly stronger than the Forgotten Temple for army boosts, but instead of a 20% Forge Point boost, it has a 20% goods boost. This building will last for 4 weeks, and you can only have up to 2 of them placed at any given time. At Trial 55, you get 34 fragments of the 200 needed to assemble it, meaning that you can get one only every 6 weeks and can't keep one active all the time. So after all of this, let's look at which trials you may want to choose to play. If you're looking to maximize diamonds, you need to get 1800 Jade coins to spend them in the shop on diamonds every week, meaning you must play at least Trial 4. For the Forgotten Temple, you want to play at least Trial 5 to get enough fragments to keep one consistently in your city. Despite higher trials being added, you are still limited to a maximum of 50 fragments per season. You're first able to start getting Jade Snakes at Trial 8, enough to buy all the fragments available for any one silver upgrade. The snakes cap at Trial 16, which is where you have to buy all the fragments to use all the snakes. Jade Coyotes appear at Trial 17, although you actually need Trial 18 before you can buy all the fragments available for any golden upgrade. They will cap at Trial 25, which is where you have to buy all the fragments of the gold upgrades in the shop to spend them all. The Jade statues show up at Trial 26, but like the Coyotes, it's the next trial, Trial 27, where you get enough to buy all the fragments available for one item. The statues max out at Trial 34, which is again where you will have to buy all the fragments of every platinum upgrade in the shop in order to use them all. No major rewards change from Trial 34 to 55, with 55 being where those ancient temple fragments actually appear. In a weird quirk, the best trials for forge points and goods actually end up being 50 to 54. Trial 55 results in a nearly 10% decrease to these resources. For diamond farmers, I'd recommend targeting Trial 9. The enemy army boosts are only a maximum of 2,340%, and at that trial you're able to get all the diamonds, Fountain of Youth trinkets, and little Fountain of Youth trinkets purchased in the shop. You also get 50 base Fountain of Youth fragments at this point, although if you really wanted to push things further, Trial 27 and beyond will give 70 fragments. A Temple of Relics would probably serve you much better than trying to build up enough army boosts to reach that point though, so I'd recommend just sticking around Trial 9. On that note, the Temple of Relics hasn't received any changes with this update. It still provides the exact same things it did before at the exact same rates. The unlock costs for levels in the expedition have also changed as they are much cheaper. Unfortunately, I don't have the exact numbers on what those costs will be, but I will update the costs in my Guild Expeditions data spreadsheet, and that will be linked in the description. I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper into looking at the comparison of rewards between the previous trial system and the new version now that the shops are here. I've taken all the fragments of items that you got from each trial and calculated those fragments' worth in the various Jade currencies to get a sense of how much it would cost to buy all of those fragments in the shop. For Jade coins, we can see that we get far fewer coins than the equivalent fragments we got before, meaning that you are getting significantly fewer rewards here. However, it's important to remember the quality of the rewards here. I doubt many players are actually using the Guild Expedition 1, 2, or 3 kits. The 4th kit still has use for terrace farms. Anyways, if I set the Jade coin value of the 1, 2, and 3 kits to 0, you can see that it is fairly close in terms of value. For the Jade Snakes, the currency you will get will be the exact same value as it would have been previously at higher trials. At lower trials, you can actually get more snakes and therefore rewards than the previous version of the feature. A similar chart can be created for the Jade Coyotes, where both lines hit the same maximum value, but the new currency will give you more rewards earlier. Some rewards that have actually increased quite significantly are forge points and goods. On average, you're looking at nearly twice as many of each resource as before. The reason for this is the compression of all the fragments of buildings and selection kits that took up slots in the guaranteed rewards into the various coins. This leaves a lot more space for the random rewards to appear, and so you can get many more of those resources. You may also notice that attempts are now missing as rewards from the 5th level of the expeditions. However, as a result of the reduction in the number of guaranteed rewards, you will still get more attempts than you did from the old version of the expeditions. Not bad at all. If you want to look a little bit more into the data for the rewards and such, I will be updating my Guild Expedition spreadsheet. You can find that linked in the description if you want to check it out. Last thing for this video, I just wanted to cover some of my own thoughts. Largely, I feel like this update adds a significant amount of complexity to the expeditions that feels unnecessary. For example, if the silver, gold, and platinum upgrades must all be purchased weekly to use all the Jade currencies for them, I don't see the point behind having shop mechanics for them, especially not 2 more shops on top of the already overcrowded shops interface. To me, as it's implemented, the shops don't really add much to the feature. They haven't really changed the amount of any given reward you can get per season. You can't put all of your Jade coins into Fountain of Youth trinkets, for example. If you do buy all the fragments for the trinkets possible, you get 50, which is the same as you got previously without there being a shop. Personally, I think that if the goal of the shops was to add choice for what players wanted to get out of the expeditions, The caps on items should have been increased at least a little bit past what you could get previously. To use the Fountain of Youth Trinket example again, maybe the limit is getting 80 fragments per week. That's more than you could get before, so you could choose to invest in getting those fragments. Same thing with the silver, gold, and platinum upgrades in the shop. Increase the limits a little, but keep the currency still limited to give the player the ability to focus their rewards around what they want. Speaking of limited currency, I'm not a huge fan of the way rewards basically stay constant from Trial 34 to Trial 54. It's just a big gap of nothing much happening. Functionally, there would be very little difference if Trial 35 was just a big step of difficulty and it gave the new Ancient Temple fragments. As I mentioned earlier, the max trial difficulty is still less than half of what the original max trial difficulty was when the feature first launched on the beta servers. I'm not going to go too far into a topic I've already covered, I'll link that video after the end of this one, but I think the trials and the expeditions are easier than they should be to the point where adjacent trials feel nearly identical in terms of difficulty. My personal preference would be to have fewer trials to choose from, but with more clear steps of rewards and difficulty between them. I think they could get away with maybe 15 trials, 3 for the scaling of each new currency from low to medium to max, and also scaling in the fragments of the new temple. It would feel like an accomplishment to make it to a higher trial, as it would actually take a decent amount of work to move up to that next step. Anyways, those are just my thoughts. What do you think of this update, and which trial are you going to play? Let me know in the comments below or over on my Discord server. The link to join is in the description. Good luck with the expeditions, and as always, I'll see you all next time.